how to set up consent mode version 2 for your WordPress site for free. Simply search the plugin depository for Presidium Cookie Consent plugin. Install and activate this plugin, just like you would any other WordPress plugin. When you do, this plugin gives you a menu option. To be consent mode version 2 ready, we need to go to consent mode and make sure we have Google consent mode version 2 enabled. You have two implementations. I'll cover the Google Analytics option, but if you're using Google Tag Manager, this plugin actually makes the process straightforward as well. And basically, anytime you're making changes, simply press save. Now what we need to do is we need to record consent, so make sure that's enabled. And we have to have page scripts enabled as well, because requirements for consent mode version 2 is that we actually record the consent from our website visitors. And we need to make sure that we're not sending signals to Google servers unless the website visitor gives us the consent. Next, what we need to do is we need to identify the cookies that are set on our website. So we can press on Cookies tab, and by default this will be empty for you. There are many different ways to accomplish this. The easiest way is simply search Google with cookies scanner. There are many different ones for free. And when they run the test, you will see what cookies are picked up by these scanners. At this moment, do keep in mind that WordPress sections work differently, and you may have different cookies set on different parts of your WordPress site. So keep that in mind. Meaning, you want to perhaps check out page, you want to test that for WooCommerce setup to see, what different cookies are set there, because that could happen, and these scanners may actually miss some of them sometimes, correct? That's why you want to be thorough. Then, when these identify what cookies are set, all you need to do is populate the details accordingly. Make sense? So in this example, let's say there is one for performance. It's this. So for this setup, you would go to necessary cookies, targeting cookies, performance, perhaps preference. We can add a new cookie and put the session ID there. Now this is the tricky part. You're going to spend a bit of time, 5-10 minutes minimum, to make sure that you get this right. Basically, for Google, if you're using Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, Google Ads, you're basically targeting people. So we don't just really want to rely on these here. Here it says advertising. So then that would become our targeting cookies, because we're targeting people. Here it says, there's a Adobe Analytics. But the fact is, I'm not actually using Adobe Analytics. So how do you make sure that you get this right? Using these tools will only speed up the process, and the description you can perhaps copy and paste the description there, because these will tell us what the cookie name is, for what website, and then for what domain. Just copy paste, and how long. This is a session based cookie, That means it's non-persistent. But different ones may be set differently for your setup. And that's why you want to use different scanners, because they tell you how long the cookie is set. Okay. Now I tend to do things manually because I want to get things done correctly. So how do you then do that? You would want to do that through incognito option. Visit your website, press on F12 on your keyboard to bring out the web developer toolbar. Look at application and look at cookies. This is the cookies that are set for my setup. But because I haven't accepted the consent yet, if I press accept, I want to see what happens. As you can see, different cookies are now set. Since this is for WordPress, you may actually want to check out rankia.com.au. This latest course definitely is worth it for every WordPress site owner. Let's imagine I want to add this to the cart and I want to see if cookies change. And let's view the cart to see what happens when I do that. As you can see, different things may have been added. If I go to checkout process, does the cookie change? Is in the name of it. So at this moment I can see these are the cookie names and it expires 1 year from now. So for typical WooCommerce example, I'll show you that as well because it'll make sense. For that, I would set that. And here I can just search Google with that cookie name. That's coming from Stripe. Let's see. Okay. View cookies. Essentials. So that's set for 1 year. And here's the request. Right? But here's the issue. That's why I'm showing you this scenario. Because if we rely on these scanners, most of them are money-hungry service providers, confusing the subject matter. If I was operating a WooCommerce site, this would be an essential. So I would put that in essential. Makes sense? So I'm showing you two different websites just so that I cover many different angles. I'll show you this example for WooCommerce because it'll make sense. Because we want to get this right. The cookies we need to provide. How long does the cookie run? For what domain? For Google products, it's usually the Google site. Let's take a look. I mean, it tells us here the domain is this, but yours may show different things here. That's why you want to thoroughly understand which cookies are set on different parts of your WordPress site. In my example, after all, it is your WordPress site. For WooCommerce, these cookies are set for security reasons, fraud prevention. If that is the case, for my example, that's an essential cookie because it's related to security. That's why I want to put that there. And if a website visitor doesn't accept it, that's okay. I don't need to use Google tags because security is more important. Make sense? So a website visitor, it's up to them whether they accept it or not. But if they want to check to see, okay, what cookies are set, this plugin gives them that option so they can learn more about it if they want. And as far as my setup is concerned, that's an essential cookie. and they have to accept it, or else they won't perhaps be able to purchase the product. That's okay. The reason I show you that is because these scanners often confuse the subject matter. But usually they get it right, but it's up to you as the website owner to determine what is essential. I mean, Google tags are for targeting, so they are not essential. Correct? Okay. Because consent mode version 2 can be used for Facebook, or different tracking pixels and so on, and not just for Google. That's why you want to thoroughly understand what cookies are set, how long, and for what domain. And the best way to identify them correctly is by using the Web Developer Toolbar application tab, and most of them are straightforward. Because if it's a session cookie, it's a session cookie. So all this information is available under Web Developer Toolbar, Application tab. Look at cookies. When you accept all or reject all, take a look at what's been set. Okay. So now we've covered the most important part. Simply populate these according to your setup and do a bit of Googling to see what is what. Is essential analytics and so on. Okay. Then the next step is we need to block scripts. What in the world is this? This plugin gives us an option to say, when we're running a script to communicate with a different server for tracking purposes, then we can block them. And this is very important to be consent mode version 2 ready. What does this say? This basically says, you know what? I want to block sending signals to some tracking server unless someone accepts my policy, my website's consent policies and cookie policies. So where do you get this? The common scenario for Google Analytics, you can use this scenario. Now, what we're seeing can be complex for some WordPress site owners. So I'll zoom in, but actually you can do something like this. Presidium cookie GitHub. Just search for that because they actually have a wiki page. And most other plugins, they don't do that. So with this, they actually show you sample codes here. Okay? So, basically we're using regular expressions. For Google Analytics, that's the pattern. I'll actually zoom in so that you can see. For Google Tag Manager, that's the URL pattern. If you're using Facebook Pixel, you could block that as well. Let's say your setup is using some other scripts. Where do you find that from? Once again, Web Developer Toolbar is your friend. From here, you can actually see what scripts are loaded on your website. Okay, let's do something like this. Let's look at Network tab. We can do that. Refresh the page. I am in incognito option, so keep that in mind. I can look at coverage report as well. I can look at JavaScript. Okay. So now there is one here for Google Tag Manager. That's typical for Google. But let's do something like this. Let's go to a different part of our site. I can see there's one here for Stripe, which I don't want to block. But you can identify what they are in this manner if you do not know what scripts that you need to block. Mainly it's Google, Analytics, Google Tag Manager, and Facebook. These are the popular ones. So if you're using them on your site, you want to block them by using block scripts option. This block scripts option works with page scripts here. So we need to enable this and then block. So then when a website visitor visits the site, under cookies you'll see. So that plugin does this here, adds a cookie. So if I refresh, so perhaps you want to do this for testing purposes as well. So I've deleted that cookie just to test. Okay, so now I know everything is set up correctly and it's working. So you need to definitely run this test, because here I can see what cookies, what scripts that are external, so you could perhaps see that here as well. If not, you want to explore a little bit more and you're unsure, you can look at coverage report to see, okay, what external website my website is communicating with, and that could reveal different scripts for tracking. Then basically you have your consent records here, and a tip for you is this will grow as more people visit your website. What you can do is you can actually download them to your local computer every now and then, perhaps once a month, and then clear the records. So it's perhaps more cleaner, because your consent records will grow. This is the free option, and the reason that you want to use this plugin and the free option is because you want to keep your money in your pocket, meaning you can advertise, other consent mode version 2, Google partners and all that stuff. They try and charge you money as your site grows. But this plugin is consent mode version 2 ready, and it has all the requirements set, and it's a free plugin. So instead of paying $50 to some external site every month, I could perhaps run Google ads to drive more potential customers. So this is how you set up consent mode version 2 on your WordPress site for free.